Act 3, Scene 2 of The Merchant of Venice is, to some extent, the kind of comic high point of the play, insofar as it is when Portia and Bassanio get together. So Bassanio has come to Belmont. Just like Morocco, just like Aragon, he has to go through the casket test before he can marry Portia. Okay. She asks him at the beginning of the scene, "I pray you tarry, please wait. Pause a day or two before you hazard," that is, guess, from a choosing wrong. Okay. "Forbear a little, something tells me, but it is not love that I would not lose you, and you know yourself, hate counsels not in such quality." So she's trying to persuade him, please don't leave, spend some time, get to know me, because she believes that Bassanio will choose the wrong casket. Okay. She again explains the rules of the game. Okay. Again, the caskets are brought in. He has to choose which one he is to choose. And he looks at all of the caskets very, very carefully. And he speaks in an aside to the audience. So he speaks directly to the audience, not to the other characters on the stage, but to just the audience. So we find out what he's thinking. And he says, looking at the gold casket, "So many the outward shows belease themselves. The world is still deceived with ornament. In law, what plea so tainted and corrupt, but being seasoned with a gracious voice, obscures the show evil." Now, this is very interesting. He's saying, in law, how often is it that, a good lawyer can make somebody who is guilty appear innocent and vice versa? Okay, and of course, this idea of a tainted and corrupt plea, a tainted and corrupt testimony in court, is exactly what Portia herself gives just a couple of scenes later when she uses her kind of powers of rhetoric against Shylock, but breaks the law in various ways, as I'll go into. In religion, he continues, "What damned error but some sober brow will bless it and approve it with a text hiding the grossness with fair ornament." Okay, so in other words, he's saying, no, I'm even in religion, if the priest says what they believe to be true with enough conviction, everybody would believe them, but it's not true. They're hiding grossness with fair ornament. And there's this epiphora, which is a repetition of a word or a phrase at the end of a successive series of lines. And there's epiphora of the word ornament. Okay, clearly Bassanio understands the difference between appearance and reality, between ornament and truth. And why does he understand this? Because he himself, as we've discovered from the opening scenes of the play, is all about ornament. He borrows money from Antonio in order to appear wealthy enough to marry Portia, whereas in fact he's very, very poor and badly in debt, and really probably only marrying Portia for her money. Okay. He continues, "Therefore thou gaudy," that means unnecessarily bright, "thy gaudy gold, hard food for Midas, I'll none of thee." Okay, Midas, of course, famously was the king who wished that everything he touched turned to gold. And then he realized that this meant that, his wife and his food and everybody changed to gold. So this is a parable about the dangers of greed. He also refuses the silver casket. Nor none of thee, thou pale and common drudge. Okay? He thinks that silver is somehow dirty. It's a drudge, which is actually a Renaissance word for a prostitute, because coins were made out of silver, and they were in a sense like prostitutes in that they are used by many different men and exchanged. So he won't choose the silver either, because he thinks that the silver one is beneath him. So he opens the lead casket, and he says, "What find I here? Fair Portia's counterfeit." Okay, so he has discovered the casket that has the painting of Portia within. This means that he can marry Portia. But rather than doing the normal thing that we might expect and turning to Portia, giving her a kiss, going and getting married, whatever, instead, he goes in for what's called ekphrasis. This is a really, really vivid description of the beauties of a painting. And he says, "What demigod hath come so near creation?" So what God has managed to make an image that looks just like the real thing. "Move these eyes? Do the eyes in the painting move? Or whither riding in the balls of mine seem they in motion? Here are served lips, parted with sugar breath, so sweet a bar should sunder such sweet friends." He's talking about the beautiful mouth, slightly open mouth in the painting of Portia. "Here in her hair the painter plays the spider, and hath woven a golden mesh to entrap the hearts of men, faster than gnats in cobwebs." So the painter has painted something so beautiful that Portia's like this deadly spider that will draw these hapless men into her web. But her eyes, how could he see to do one? Having made one, methinks it should have the power to steal both his and leave itself unfinished. That is, as the painter had painted such a wonderfully beautiful eyeball, it seems as if he would fall in love with his own creation and be unable to paint the other one. "Yet look how far the substance of my praise doth wrong this shadow in underprizing it." She is so much more beautiful even than the painting of her that I have just explained is unbelievably beautiful. So far, this shadow, she's talking about the painting, this shadow does limp behind the substance. Okay, this is a very interesting description, because he is still, even when he describes the authentic or the supposedly authentic Portia, even when he's made the right decision, he's still only describing an aesthetic representation of Portia, not Portia herself. So it's like we can never really get to the very heart of things in The Merchant of Venice, just like we can never get to the very heart of Hamlet. We never know really what Hamlet is exactly about. And the same is true here, that the most vivid description of Portia is actually a description of an image of Portia. Anyway, he reads the scroll, and it says, "You that choose not by the view, chance as fair and choose as true. Since this fortune falls to you, be content and seek no new, if you will be pleased with this, and hold your fortune for bliss. Turn you where your lady is, and claim her with a loving kiss." So the scroll inside or underneath the portrait tells him he can go and kiss Portia. He has chosen something on the hope, on the belief that it will be the right thing, not from the external appearance. So possibly because Bassanio is such a superficial person who is concerned only with appearances and is very, very untrustworthy, he understands how this riddle works. So in that respect, I suppose we could say that Portia's father's riddle of trying to find a suitable man for her, so one who isn't vain or isn't materialistic, has kind of failed because Bassanio has managed to work out the riddle.